And welcome back to Spiro Avenue. We're checking the sound here. I want to make sure you guys can all hear me okay. Can I get a thumbs up? We'll turn it up. How we sounding, crew? You guys hear me okay in Spartan Nation, Wolverine Nation, wherever you are? We'll get started in a minute. Want to let you guys file in. It's going to be a good one today, guys, because I got a lot to say. There's a lot going on. Okay, it's time for Spiro Avenue to get started. I got to tell you, this is the worst time to be a Detroit sports fan. This is nothing new. We all know this. I love the stat that just came out about Detroit having literally the worst year in the history of American sports, where the 4 pro teams in this town have lost more games than any city in the history of sports, which is a long history. We're going over 100 years. So it's bad times in Detroit sports nation. It's one of the lowest points I can remember, and we're still in it, and we've been in it for a long time. But there is a bright side. It is in East Lansing, but it's certainly not with the football team. Mark Dantonio is asleep. I don't know what Mark Dantonio is doing. I don't know what Mark Dantonio has been doing for the last several years. It makes no sense to me what Mark Dantonio is doing. Somebody needs to drive up to East Lansing and wake the guy up. Because as bad as last year was, and as bad as the year before it was, I thought that it would all be worth it if we finally, albeit belatedly, got the changes that we needed. If he was going to come back against all odds, against my intuition, I thought he was gone. I thought he was eyeing retirement. But if he was going to come back, it had to be with massive changes. Massive. Not a tweaking of a linebackers coach or shuffling the deck like they did last offseason. And here we are. We are in now officially late January, where the coaching shuffle has already been going on for weeks, if not over a month already in college football. And Mark Dantonio has made no changes. Not even the firing or reassigning of any of these guys. At least if you had fired them, you could say, okay, the search is going slow, but at least it has begun. Hopefully it's begun in earnest. You could at least sell that. Everybody is still in place. Everybody. There has not been a single change made, and Mark Dantonio was annoyed when asked about it yesterday. He was bothered by the line of questioning. It just baffles me that we thought, as bad as 2018 was, we were sure to get real change. It was so embarrassing to lose that Oregon game, giving up 1 touchdown and losing 7-6 as the culmination of an absolute embarrassment of a season. We were sure it was going to get better. It had to get better. He would make changes. Mark Dantonio has finally seen the light. And he put his coaches' names in a jar and shook it up like it was a game of Yahtzee and just sprayed it on the table and said, okay, you go here, you go here, you go here. It was coaching malfeasance. It was program malfeasance. And it was a disaster of a decision from day one. Everybody knew it. I sat at this desk and talked about it with anyone that would listen. We all knew it would be a disaster. This whole notion that like the fans are always wrong when coaches play the, what's your resume card, or athletes do that as well. You know what? Sometimes the fans are right. The fans were right in 2018, and that was bared out in 2019 with the disaster of a season that we just saw. And we went through it again. And by the way, 2018 was not the first time. We saw it in 2012. A top 5 defense in the country went 6-6. 7-6 if you include the bowl game. 6-6. They let it happen again, and then they let it happen again. In 2019, the team was so bad that they didn't even waste an elite defense. Both units were terrible. And they were lucky to make a bowl game. They had to beat 2 terrible teams at the finish line to even get into a bowl game. And bowl games mean nothing. The win over Wake Forest, yeah, you'd rather win, but who's going to put any stock into that? You think this program is going to carry the flag of the Pinstripe Bowl championship into next season? Although they did wear hats. It looked pretty ridiculous. It means nothing. It's nice. It's like winning a pickup game of basketball. Like, yeah, you want to win. You're playing to win. It's nice to win. It doesn't mean anything. I mean, you're not going to go home and tell your wife that you won the game, right? So that's what the Pinstripe Bowl was. I put no stock into it. Mark Dantonio is asleep. We are entering late January, and he is asleep. You have coaches going all over the place in a game of musical chairs. Whatever good that was out there is gone. So even if he does make changes, Mark Dantonio is going to be on, page 7 or 8 of his wish list, if these changes even take place, which I'm dubious that they will. I think if you're going to see anything, it's going to be another shuffling of the deck chairs. That's what I think is coming, if anything at all. And even if they do make the changes, the ship has sailed. This story's written. There's no knight in shining armor coming. You're not going to bring Jason Garrett here to be the offensive coordinator, which never would have happened anyway. But you could have at least called him on January 3rd or whenever he got fired finally after that 3-week dalliance with the Cowboys. So it's just, this whole thing is so upsetting. We're going through it again. The story's done. I don't care what they do now. It's too late. The story's done. He blew it again. He blew it again. And Mark Dantonio is making the second most money in the entire country in 2020 with that bonus he just hit on a week ago. It's insanity. He's making $8.7 million. He's making more than Dabo Swinney. He's making more than Dabo. Only Nick Saban is making more than Mark Dantonio in 2020. I don't think it's unreasonable to expect competence. I'm not expecting him to be Clemson, although you're paying him better than Clemson's paying their coach for at least one season. But I expect competent management at $8.7 million. This is crazy. This is crazy. And the Michigan State media, which is pretty soft, I hate to say it because I'm friends with some of you guys, has to say something. Has to. Because I think it's embarrassing that the biggest slappy in the world, Hondo Carpenter, was the only one to really call Mark Dantonio to the mat last year, mid-season. The whole famous it's too early to make these assessments thing when the team was drowning at 3-3 and clearly it was going to get clobbered the rest of the way. When Hondo Carpenter is the only one calling Mark Dantonio to the mat, that's an indictment on the media. I'm friends with some of these guys, friendly with some of these guys, but it's not going to spare you the criticism. You got to say something. This is the biggest case of malfeasance going on in the entire country. Okay, Florida State was talking about hiring Deion Sanders. That was your only hope to not be the biggest joke of the offseason. They didn't. Now you are. It's embarrassing. For a program that was proud, that had a top 6 finish 3 years in a row, they have fallen far, and it's depressing to see. Michigan State basketball, on the other hand, is looking pretty good to me, and I got to tell you, that win over Wisconsin last night, for them to bomb a pretty solid Wisconsin team. I'm not saying they're great, but they should be in the tournament. They are a solid team. They don't get bombed very often. For them to blow Wisconsin's doors off, don't let the score fool you. That game was trending towards a 30-point game until MSU let up at the end. For them to bomb a good Wisconsin team, a solid Wisconsin team, with Cassius Winston playing horribly and doing nothing, is an incredible sign. It is not something we saw last year. If Cassius Winston, you got Dantonio on my mind. If Cassius Winston struggled in a game last year against a team with a pulse, Michigan State was dead. And you could see it on Winston's face throughout the year. I think it wore on him. I think he was a shell of himself in that Texas Tech game, and not just because of the ongoing pressure of the previous months, but Texas Tech was the best defense in the country. But I do think that it weighed heavily on Cassius Winston last year. And he was horrible last night as far as I'm concerned. I mean, he looked totally out of sorts, which not killing the guy. I mean, he's earned an off night or two for sure. But MSU hammered them anyway. And that is a dangerous sign for everybody else. The team's already on top in the Big Ten. I think they're going to go wire to wire at the top of the Big Ten standings. I think they're going to spend every day in first place in the conference and win it again, 3rd year in a row. Not going to make any solid predictions now about the Big Ten tournament. I mean, that's a one and done, who knows. But in terms of the long range regular season title, I think Michigan State's going to take it the whole way. The development of Rocket Watts is scary for everyone else in the country. Anyone else that plans to challenge Michigan State for interconference supremacy, certainly. If Rocket Watts figures it out and starts hitting outside shots like he did in the second half against Wisconsin, look out, because that guy can get to the basket whenever he wants to, basically. And the only thing holding him back has been a lack of confidence and a little bit of uncertainty. That wasn't a problem last night. That guy was ready to pull from half court. So if that thing comes together, look out. On the other hand, you do have the team in Ann Arbor. Michigan basketball is a mess. They are near the bottom of the Big Ten conference standings. December 2019 feels like it was 7 years ago. I don't know what's going on with that program. Weird effort from them in the Iowa game. They were kind of up and down. They looked good, then they looked bad. They looked good, then they looked bad. I don't know what to make of them. I think they're better than ninth place in the conference right now. I think they're better than that. I think they're a tournament team, but they're certainly not going to be ranked going into next week. So I think they're kind of a mess, and they're going to be a non-factor this year, both in conference and in the NCAA tournament. That's a team that you hope hits a couple big shots and maybe can squeak into the second weekend before they get blasted in the Sweet 16. So you guys have a lot of recruits coming, the best recruits that you guys have had in a long time. So, not to panic in year one of Juwan Howard. Took Izzo a few years to get it going. So not much to make of that, but I would prepare for another shellacking in Ann Arbor in a couple weeks when Sparty comes to town. I don't think it's looking good for you. Whether or not Kyle Arns and his 72 ailments are back on the court, who knows? But not looking good. Not looking good if everything stays the same as it is right now. So that's Michigan State. That is Michigan. I got to get to this story. I'm pulling it up. I'm so frustrated with this story. We'll hit on this really quick because no one gives a shit about the Pistons, to be honest. But why is Derrick Rose still here? Why are we sitting here? What is it, January 18th? Why are we sitting here in mid to late January and Derrick Rose is still here? He has been one of the best players in the NBA on a per-minute basis in terms of efficiency. If you extrapolate his limited minutes across time, which I know is not a perfect science, but he plays enough minutes that it matters. He's one of the best players in the league this year. He's a former MVP, and honestly, he looks about like 92% as good as he was his MVP season. I mean, he's been unbelievable, but he is a time bomb. He is a ticking time bomb. And there was a report about a week ago that the Pistons are not going to trade him unless they're blown away by an offer. I am hoping against all hope for the sake of the 17 people that still care about that organization and that team and the 15 people that go to the games, I'm hoping that that's a smokescreen, which is possible. It's possible that the Pistons are leaking that so they get a better offer. But that aside, if that story's true and the Pistons are looking at, we got him for next year too, and we're going to try to go for something next year and we want him around. Look, I love Derrick Rose. But you don't want to count on the health of Derrick Rose. Look at what happened when you counted on the health of Blake Griffin. You saw Blake Griffin dominating last year. Everyone got excited. There was a window to trade him. And they banked on the health of Blake Griffin. And look what happened. Blake Griffin played horribly this year, was in and out of the lineup, and now he's getting one of those weird surgeries that no one can pronounce on his knee, the 7th or 8th on that knee. It's unbelievable that they didn't trade Blake Griffin when the iron was hot. And now the iron is hot with Derrick Rose, the only guy in the league that's more flammable and more breakable than Blake Griffin is Derrick Rose. The guy was so depressed with his injury history, he was talking about retiring a year ago, walking away from the game with millions on the table. He walked away from the Cavaliers with no health problems. Just he was sad, basically. He missed games because he was sad, like a year ago. And this is the guy, he's lighting the world on fire. And why is he still here? They held on to Blake Griffin too long. That window closed. You can't trade him now. It's a poison pill. He's staying. You got him for 2 more years at a bajillion dollars. Derrick Rose is on a cheap contract. This team's not going to do anything next year anyway. So who cares if he's good next year? Even if he's healthy, what's the end game? You're going to re-sign him to a 4-year deal in a couple years? It's ridiculous. You have to trade him. I can't believe this is even a thing, but it is. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know. It's the worst run organization in the city, and that is an incredible statement. To be the worst Detroit team right now, they are to me. Because at least the Tigers and the Red Wings are eyes open rebuilding. We're terrible. We know we're going to be terrible. All of our promotional materials is talking about Matt Manning and Casey Mize. If you're the Tigers, the Wings are openly talking about the hot prospects in the draft and all that. So at least they are self-aware. The Pistons are still under the guise of like they're going to do something. If not this year, then next. It's hilarious. Trade Derrick Rose. He's a time bomb. You're not going to get a massive haul for him, but trade him. He has value for somebody. Trade him to Philly. It's so frustrating. I can't stand it. So let's check on your questions. That's all I got, but let's see what you guys got. Screw the Pistons. That seems to be the common narrative. Yeah, Blake Griffin is indeed out for the season. Mark Dantonio is power tripping. I don't know if he's power tripping. I just think he's too nice of a guy to his friends. I don't know if it's a power trip. I just think he loves his friends and he's not going to shake and rattle and roll them out of town. That's what it seems like to me. I don't think he's stomping around on a power trip. I just think he does have the power and he has been empowered. But I think it's just loyalty to a fault. I think that's all it is. So I see a few other things popping up, but we'll leave it at that. I don't want to talk anymore about Mark Dantonio or any of this stuff. It's too depressing. It is what it is. So, that's that. He's going to be paid, almost $9 million this year to go slap, his friends on the butt and have a barbecue with them this summer. That just is what it is. So it's depressing. I got nothing. Michigan State basketball is what I do got. So thank God for Cassius Winston and Rocket Watts turning it on. That's all I have to hang my hat on these days. For you Michigan fans that are Detroit sports fans, I don't know what to tell you because it's a disaster all around. So, maybe your football team will get it done. Anyway, that's all I got. Spiro Avenue, thanks for tuning in. Subscribe, iTunes, YouTube, all that fun stuff. Hop on, join us. We're repping a couple times a week now, so I'm going to be in your face. So enjoy. Thank you. This was Spiro Avenue. Peace out, guys. See ya.